Good morning. It's a brand new day, Monday, the first working day of the week, and you're welcome to Good Morning Anambra. My name is Chidimma Orangwa, and of course this morning I'm not doing it alone. I have my colleague seated with me this morning. Angela, good morning.
Good morning, dear Anambra. It's always a pleasure to be here. Well, exactly a week to Christmas. What more can we say? We're already in the joyous mood. We'll sit back, relax, and enjoy what we have for you in press review this morning.
All right, like we always do every morning on our Breakfast TV show, we are going to bring to you the trending stories on the national dailies. But we're going to start with ABS website. Right now, we take a short break. When we come back, we introduce our guest who is already seated with us in the studio this morning. So do not go anywhere. Stay. All right, you're welcome back to the program, and our guest this morning is Samuel Ololo. Samuel, glad to have you on the show this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm happy to be here. Good morning, Diana Brown.
Okay, welcome. All right, we are starting with the series on ABS website. We just have two stories there. Anambra Police Command reassures of onslaught against kidnappers. Mrs. Soludo repeats call for restoration of family values, promotion of healthy living. Okay? We just have two stories on our website this morning. Let's begin with the first one, talking about Police Command reassuring of onslaught against kidnappers. You know, we are in a festive period and we'll have influx of people coming back to celebrate their Christmas with us. And it's at a time like this that this hoodlums want to strike. So what's your thought on this coming from the Police Command in Anambra State?
So first of all, let me link the call Mrs. Oludo has made on restoration of family values for there to continually be increase in crimes. And then what we are talking about is the kidnapping and all and the likes. It means that it goes a long way to make us understand the kind of values many of us came up with. Because I know growing up, I could remember when you want to go to school, your parents sit you down and give you some kind of mind-enduring advice. Sometimes they tell you know where you're coming from, and those things keep ringing in your head. It makes you stay away from troubles. It makes you know the kind of life you are supposed to live. And then here we are having able-bodied young men whom I want to believe have lost their traces of their family traces, who have lost those values. So it's necessary we begin to call back those values. Okay. And then, unfortunately, last week we heard of what happened at Oba. And this is still part of it. And because of to kidnap an individual, you see the kind of lives and properties that were destroyed. This is just last week, and it's not far from us. So for the police, it's good that they know that this happens. But beyond giving us those assurances, we want practical steps. There are things we should begin to see in the society, both in terms of relationship between the citizens and the police, both in terms of how they get intel, both in terms of hardware, what they are installing, both in terms of the kind of confidence that people would have and say, okay, this is really going to happen. Unfortunately, with what we are seeing in Nigeria, with what we are seeing in Anambra State, anything that happens, it will just only take the grace of God to get the police to rescue the citizens. And it's unfortunate. So what happens to getting intels ahead of time to forestall these events? It's unfortunate that every Christmas we know that kidnappers are always on the loose. So has there been a constant public awareness on if this happens, this is what the citizens should do, so that it will be a coordinating force? If it's happening, the citizens can know how to pass information, but these things are not happening. But we are still going back to our family values. We are still going back to why the youth must be employed. If there is unemployment, then crime will continue to increase.
All right, thank you so much for that. Let's quickly go back to the papers we have for the day.
And the first paper we have for review this morning is the Daily Sun. And the banner headline is saying, Naira scarcity, BDCs SMEs, others groan as experts queries CBN. And the writer there says, crisis ending soon, says Apex Bank. And off-cycle elections, Serap sues INEC over failure to prosecute electoral offenders in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo. Adeboye, why I didn't stop Olaoye from contesting Seun Ogbomosho. You can find that on page 28 of the newspaper. Convicted drug baron loses VGC mansion SUV as NDLEA arrests grandma for drugs in Lagos. Tinubu hails appointment of Professor Uchebu as London University president. MPA busts fake electronic call-up syndicate at Lagos port. Nigerians, others die as 61 migrants drown off Libya coast. And Rivers, G27 leader rejects passage of budget, accuses lawmakers loyal to Fubura of contravening laws, purported orders stopping sack of 27 lawmakers goes viral. CUPP alleges fresh plot to impeach governor. And then you can see the picture there of security operatives, police command, undergoing their drill. And then last but not the least, NLC dismisses notice of nationwide strike. That's all we have on the Daily Sun newspaper. The banner headline, Naira scarcity. I think we talked about this 2 weeks or thereabouts ago, and then it's still, bringing it ugly. I don't know why we keep having this issue of, cash crunch at festive periods like this. Does it mean that the CBN don't even plan for there to be enough cash in circulation or what?
So that is what happens when you are not completely in control of the factors that runs your economy. In practice or in principle, the CBN is actually supposed to be the organ that takes care of circulation of the naira and of our currency. But the question is, Godwin Emefiele, the former CBN governor, one time made us understand the volume of money that is outside both the CBN and the banks. And these people holding the money, it is their legitimate money. And they have chosen not to deposit this money in the bank. So who controls it? And that was why they started with that Naira redesign to try to draw money out back into the system, which was really working, but an average Nigerian team would always be sabotaged. So the question now is, what is the current administration doing to really forestall these issues? For crying out loud, we have been in a country where we continue to allow just the few impoverish the many, determine what happens in the society. And it happens because even the government themselves have been compromised. Because if they have not been compromised, just a single policy can ramp up the money that these people are having. So what happens to encouraging them? And before now, there is a particular amount of money that if you put in the bank, there will be charges to it. And we know if you go to Ariaya Market in Aba, if you go to our own there, Opiweka here, and even this farm, this market that the cow sellers, you see the kind of volume of money they come up with and they make in a day. And you are telling them once the money is above a particular limit, you are going to be charging them. Then you are discouraging them. So it's good that the central bank has even cut off that charges that comes up with it. So it's a way of encouraging people to start coming to the bank. But the question is, to what extent are the citizens even believing in the central bank? Because that is why we keep talking about policy somersaults. Today, tomorrow another policy will come up again. To execute. So if last week when you want to access money, they will now cap the money that you get. They will tell you cannot give more than 20,000, or sometimes depending on the kind of person you are, they will tell you 50,000. In Nigeria, so it has made people keep grabbing as much money as they can grab to store, so that they would not even go through the stories of when you want to access some money. Don't you think that if we have
that policy, I'm not talking about giving people just 20,000 or 50,000, like we had earlier, that if you have a certain amount you want to deposit, you have to pay a particular fine. Now, we have other channels that we use to do business. You can use the e-transfer and all that. I'm saying money that's, if you want to do business with bulk money, why don't you use your e-channels? And then when you come to the bank, they will not give you maybe nothing less than 200,000 or 500, depending on what is in your account. Because I see that if someone comes to the bank and probably takes up to 3 million, 4 million. At the end of the day, they are storing it back in their home. It's not circulating.
Okay, so people who even take that 3 million, I don't think they're taking it to store in their home. They're taking it to continue to run their business. And an average Nigerian wants a seamless operation, right? You want, when you go, wherever you want to go to, you get your money, you pay, and then you are off. So when we're talking about the e-channels, it's actually a welcome development. But we know the infrastructure deficit that we are suffering in Nigeria. We know what it takes. Sometimes, when you make a transfer, you begin to make phone calls. And then you have to wait till the customer or whomever you are dealing with confirms the transaction, that the transfer you have made, before you be allowed to go. So over time, experience has shown us that this is not really working. And psychologically, it is having an impact in Nigeria not to trust that system. And that is that for that. Now, looking at the migrants that drowned off Libya coast. It's 2 weeks ago we were in a program where we were talking about trafficking and then smuggling of migrants, really. And it has made us understand that this is an organized crime, really. And it is an organized crime so much so that people who are going there are dying, and unfortunately some other ones are trooping in their numbers to also go and die. And this shows us to understand, or this makes us understand that it's because Nigeria as a nation is failing. And then people don't really see anything good in the country, and they prefer to take that long walk of taking the risk.
If I perish, I perish.
If I perish, I perish. To see, of course, the other side of it. They don't even know what is there. But because of how inhabitable the country has been, of course, the law of survival would always set in, and then you see them running away. If not, this thing should not really be happening. And it's for us to make the government, both at the national and at the subnational, to really begin, as we are ending 2023, they should use 2023 to take stock of their lives and of the kind of governance system that they have given to Nigerians, to make 2024, as we enter into a new year, let their own New Year resolution be to give Nigerians the kind of life they deserve.
Well, talking about those people, it's not just only Nigerians that we are the people that died. We have the Gambians and also other countries. So let's be talking to the continent, the African leaders in general. I mean, they need to do something so that we stop this migration, massive migration. All right, quickly, let's go over to the Punch newspaper this morning. Christmas shoppers condemn Naira scarcity, ATMs dry up. And we have poultry dealers, local stores insist on cash. Consumers buy Naira notes from petty traders. Customers lament hardship, hoarding worsens. CBN expects bank to disburse more cash. And then we can see down there, NDLEA seizes convicted Lagos Baron's mansion, naps grandma. Electricity subsidy gulps 376 billion naira. Consumer pay 783 billion naira. Man airline Dangote in talk over diesel jet A1. Afenifere worries over rising armed robberies in southwest. U.S. lawmaker wants Nigeria on concern list over blasphemy killings. And then 3 die, 7 injured in Lagos-Ibadan Expressway crash. I knew long ago Gandhi would become Song. This is coming from Pastor Adeboye. And then Punch wins NMMA newspaper editor of the year, clinches 9 others. All right. These are the story we have, the stories rather we have in the front page of the Punch newspaper. Of course, the big story is still talking about the cash crunch, but we still have other interesting stories there. So which would you want to delve into? Let
me quickly talk on the electricity subsidy, really.
Okay.
In Nigeria, we have 3 principal subsidies. We have the FS subsidy, we have the crude oil subsidy, and then we have the electricity subsidy. And unfortunately, when these subsidies were initiated, they were initiated to cushion the hardship Nigerians go through. Of course, we have looked at, okay, providing these subsidies for Nigerians and then increasing their productivity, thereby increasing the GDP of the nation. But along the line, we missed it. And we missed it so much so that every sector of these subsidies have been bastardized. They have been hijacked by the major players there, who are now milking the country. It's a good one that, of course, when we were talking about the FS, the government had to bring up a unilateral window to really see how they can forestall these issues. But it has eaten deep, just as what they did at the petroleum subsidy, which we are still crying and asking the question, has subsidy really been removed or is there still subsidy? But what they have not even talked about so far is the electricity subsidy. And the Minister of Power, Adelabu, when you asked him about what is the possibility of removing electricity subsidy, he said if they try it, that Nigeria would collapse, because in his own word, it's already fire. So it would be like if you are removing subsidy again from the electricity, you are now adding petrol to the fire, that Nigerians would suffer more. So, but the question is, who are the people benefiting from this subsidy? Now, reading yesterday's paper, they were even talking about changing discourse. That's not even going to change anything. So the question is, what is our problem as a country really in the electricity sector? Our transmission line has collapsed how many times just recently? So the question is, I mean, we really need to come back together as a country to ask ourselves, how can we build Nigeria? Because from the way we are going, there is nothing tangible that you will bring up that will become success story. Because once you bring up this policy, there are people who are going to sabotage it. And it is being sabotaged. The government is doing nothing because they are also culpable. Because I don't see the reason why I want the best for my country and I know I have the power to ensure that the best happen. And I see somebody who is sabotaging it, if I am not compromised, and I'll keep quiet. So that is why we say corruption begets corruption, really. So we want a nation where people would fear and respect other human beings, knowing that what you are doing have a huge impact in the lives of people. And now we are talking about migrants running away from the country. We are talking about kidnappers. We are talking about people who are talking about this cash crumb. We are talking about people further going into poverty. Why we are saying that Nigeria is 133 million Nigerians are multidimensionally poor. And these are things that should really make life meaningful for us. These are things that should make life meaningful for us, that should make life worth living. So that when you want to, I don't know, have you tried being productive at night when there is no light? Compare it to being productive when there is light. Just weigh the productivity level at your own scale. You see that you are more active when there is light. So it means that when we keep talking about electricity issues, we are ending up making Nigerians redundant. And how can a nation grow in that way?
All right, let's also see this story. Of course, it's a sad one too. 3 died, 7 injured in Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
What would be the cause? Infrastructure. Our road might be bad road. And then I think what we need to do is, I appreciate the federal government, and for one thing, they have passed the Mental Health Act. So beyond passing that Mental Health Act, I am calling that let there be immediate implementation of the Mental Health Act. And the Mental Health Act talks that every primary health care center should have the ability, the capacity to begin to deal with mental health related issues. I bet you, if every Nigerian goes for mental checkup, you see that our scale will be very high. Because the push and pull factor in the country is very high. And it has made a lot of Nigerians disoriented. So much so that a driver that is coming might be thinking about the troubles that he has left at home or the troubles he's going to meet at home. And he will still have to dodge a pothole. So you see a lot of confusion that we are dealing with. Why won't there be road mishap that will continue to happen? So, well, this is as we come closer to the festive season, which is around the corner, and drivers also would have to be very, very careful. And we also want road safety to up their game. And the passengers, their life is one. When a driver is driving recklessly, you also have the duty to call him to order.
You've not been in a vehicle where you call him to order and he will abuse the hell out of you.
That is so these are the issues. But let it be that you are raising that consciousness.
Yes.
And when an individual is calling the driver to order, others should not keep quiet. There is no way in a bus with passengers of 7 or 14, 10 is telling driver, stop doing this, that he will not listen. It is when maybe it's an individual that the driver feels, are you going to drive? Are you going to teach me my work? But when a voice is supported, then you see the driver would listen.
All right.
Let's go to the next paper we have for review this morning, which happens to be the Daily Independent. The banner headline, federal government should prioritize taming inflation, not $1 trillion economy. And then the writer there says, analysts label $1 trillion economy targets as unrealistic. Says, decline in inflation will lead to increase in Naira value. And we have Serap, INEC. Serap sues INEC over failure to prosecute electoral offender in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo. And Afenifere suggests fresh ways of checking rising insecurity. That you can find on page 7. 2024 budget surpassed 18.3 trillion targets. 18.3 trillion targets. Senate tells revenue generating agencies. Pro-Wike Rivers Assembly Speaker rejects governor's assent to 2024 budget. 15,000 Lagos traders get 50,000 cash support as Sanwo-Olu launches market palliative scheme. And we have owners of disused aircraft, Dare Keyamo, defy 90-day order. Over 60 abandoned aircraft still litter nation's airport. Court orders restraining FG from relocating them. That's coming from source. 42,000 failed bank depositors get 1.7 billion naira. CUPP raises the alarm over plot to validate pro-Wike lawmakers. Nigeria can't move forward by suppressing Ndibo. That's coming from Abaribe. Quickly, Wololo, which would you want to delve into here?
Let me start from the last one, really. I am a proud Igbo man, and every average Nigerian who would want to tell himself the truth would know that Nigeria technically, practically have not completely been fair to the Igbo race. During the Biafra embryo, or what happened, I want to believe that the current Igbos, many of us did not witness what happened. But we are still made to continue to suffer what happened. Even though, from history, it is not actually an Igbo coup. But let's leave that for our discussions. Nigeria, in our local language, that's I had a story about how the Ajaokuta steel was moved from what is it called? Our closest neighbor, Onitsha. To, if you see metallurgical agency that was set up, it was set up with the hope that that steel will be very close to it. But politically, it was moved from there and taken to Ajaokuta in Kogi. Since then till now, Ajaokuta that company cannot boast of producing steel. It cannot boast of producing anything. It has been in comatose all through since then till now. And see the amount, the revenue that we would have generated. Maybe we will not be talking about 1 trillion economy target. Currently, we are in 500 billion. So the question is, I want to see the kind of magic the government will do to double our current economy from 500 to 1 trillion. So it is good to aspire, really. But even in your aspiration, we want to see tangible things that you can do to say this is where we're heading to. If you see what the country, and nothing thrives where there is no rule of law. We were now talking about CUPP, lamenting of what the government wants to do. So we are now in a system where if you are closest to power, you can use the ambit of the law to your own favor. And that is why, unfortunately, the investors are leaving. Because when they are seeing this madness, they cannot compete. They don't have confidence anymore. even when they have troubles, they don't think that the law can be in their favor. After all, those people who are in power can twist the law to their own favor. And these are things that make, in practical terms, the board to make decisions that they are leaving. They cannot continue with it. And we keep asking ourselves, what is really our problem? We have gone very, very down, and it is not completely late. I think it's time for Nigerian leaders and Nigerian citizens themselves to really carry out an introspect. This is 2023 that is ending. 2024, unfortunately, if we don't come out renewed in any way that we can do it, I want to believe that we are going to, possibly not being a prophet of doom, we are going to inherit a country that we might not even say what happens to it
Nobody
anymore.
is talking about being a prophet of doom, but we are talking about the indices that is prevailing before your eyes. Do you see any do you see any chance of 2024 being better than you have?
So unfortunately,
so those are the things you need to talk about. Look at us talking about electricity. Look at us talking about insecurity. We are still talking about these pertinent things that government should have put in place.
So, you know, every nation has maybe one or two things that keep them, either science or faith or religion. Right? So when you talk about science, you use facts and figures to drive your scientific approach.
Yeah.
But when you talk about religion, you use faith to move it. So, and then you know, Nigeria is more religious than embracing science as a way of living. And that is why, if you go to a church, the faith is don't lose hope. Things will get better. And if you look at it from that prism, there is no need to lose hope. But beyond having hope, beyond having faith, that Nigeria will be better, I think we need to begin to come in practical terms to look at the indices to say, okay, we are getting it right here. But unfortunately, whenever we think we are getting anything right in this country, you see us taking fast steps backwards, retrogressively. Why? Because there are people already, we should know before now that there are people who are benefiting from that ill system. And when things is tending that it will get better, they will fight. And they have their own ways of fighting. So because when we talk of institutions not being active to really go after these people, then you see them gathering the courage to continue to foster their evil deeds. Unfortunately, Nigerians are suffering for it. And if there are no repercussions for bad actions, it will continue.
Next paper is This Day newspaper. With a big story there, purported court order surfaces ahead of ruling. More woes for judiciary. That's the big story in the front page of This Day newspaper. And then we have CUPP confirms development. Center uncovers plot to halt by elections. Okay, Wike defies Fubara's men, returns to state. Frank wants Rivers DPO's death probed. Past sector stakeholders say changing ownership of discos won't solve Nigeria's erratic electricity problem. Urge NEC to implement cost-reflective tariff structure. Oppose federal government on Naira-denominated gas sales. And education is greatest weapon in fight against terrorism, says Mrs. Tinubu. Ministry organizer trade dialogue. Participants insist Nigeria not faithful to agreements reached with foreign investors. Kick against Nigeria signing economic partnership agreement EPA with EU. Okay, war against judiciary, unwarranted, reckless senior lawyers, caution. Okay, so these are the stories we have in the front page of This Day newspaper this morning.
So let me quickly talk about the education as a tool to fight against terrorism. That is good. Of course, an educated nation is an empowered nation, really. And it has a way of making us know the good and the bad. But when we ask or probe deeper, we find out that many of our political elites, are they not educated? Who are the people impoverishing Nigerians, denying us access to quality education to make sure that they continue to remain in power? And I'll ask this question. If we check the previous administration and the last two administrations, how many of them that were active players that you still hear their voice now? So it should really be a pointer to those who are currently in power that after 4 years, maximum 8 years, your voice will begin to fade.
Remember, she said, is it a weapon to end terrorism, not political recklessness? I just want to remind you of what we read.
So it is true. It is true. But it is out of this political recklessness. And as I bet you, of course, what even started the Boko Haram issues, what started the Niger Delta issues, is it not politicians who were using these youths to perpetrate themselves in power, and when they got what they wanted, abandoned them? Now, what even gave Nigerians a hope towards getting their revenue, oil revenue in Niger Delta, was not the amnesty program of the late Yaradua. And what did he use? The amnesty program was not to provide quality education for those Niger Deltans, the militants.
But what about after acquiring education and you don't have a job?
Okay, so now this we know these things happen, and then there is this school of thought that I've also asked: what is the benefit or what is the essence of your education when you cannot use your education to provide meaningful job? It might not necessarily be the job where you employ hundreds and hundreds of people. For crying out loud, if, for an instance, not trying to pinpoint on a particular profession, I am an architect, I studied architecture. It demands that I should be self-employed, right? Before talking about employing others. If I studied medicine, it demands that I can, at least to a high extent, be giving little medical services while I talk of having my own hospital and a lot of other things. So then that means there is a defect when, after what I've studied, I get my papers and I'm bereft of ideas. We need to really critique, one, our education system. We also need to critique this. What is in this environment that has made it so hostile that when you put a seed, it does not grow? So these are the things we really need to critique.
Well, you just mentioned courses that you can, be on your own without even being employed. But there are courses people study in school. I don't want to call them, but let's take, for example, banking and finance. After studying in school, and if you don't see any bank or any microfinance house to work with, what are you going to? Whose money will you be counting, or who at home and all that?
Okay, so
I'm still talking about employment because it matters.
So I don't want to personally trivialize the unemployment. It is at its sorry state, and Nigeria currently, we are heading to 40% of our population, the youths that are unemployed. It is to make you understand the massive unemployment that we have in the country. So we are not trivializing it really. But I want to also believe that even if we studied banking and finance, virtual platforms, there are a lot of things now that if we have a critical mind, that can make us to begin to, those persons that have studied, to begin to get revenue for themselves or earn income for themselves. But that apart, so these are other indices that need to come on board. Okay. You understand that? That is why if you go into it, it will be like those who are thriving or those who are striving are not really working enough. So let's not go there. But now let us still make our countries understand that why developed countries thrive and thrive very effectively is they don't play with unemployment. They don't play with education. They don't play with those basic social amenities. It is what stabilizes the life and the standard of living of a country. And that is why maybe if you go there now, you see them talking about space exploration, because they don't talk about housing deficit. They don't talk about hunger. They don't talk about access to education. They have those basic needs. Then they now have time to explore. But in a country where we are still grappling to eat complete square meal, we are talking about malnutrition, both in the north and in the south. The question is, how can that country be productive? Would you want a mind that is impoverished to begin to think about space exploration? That is just the big question. And that is why when the youths have been crying that Nigeria is not favorable to them, many of our politicians, many of our elites, this intergenerational gap make them think that we are abusing them. It is enough for us to even pick arms to fight. But because we are not illiterate, we've been trying to talk their consciences, and they live so far away, word apart from us, and they don't even listen to what we are saying. And this is why, of course, the 2023 election generated this heavy heat. Nigerians are suffering. It is seen. If you go to every embassy sometime last month, we talked about the United States, talking about close 160 million people who have come to their embassy just for this year. 160 million only for United US. So look at Qatar, look at Canada, look at other areas. You will see the number of Nigerians that are trying to run away from the country.
Well, quickly, let's go to the next paper we'll have for review this morning, and that's The Nation. And the banner headline there is talking about Lalong resigns from FEC. Former Labour and Employment Minister opts to take Plateau South Senate seat. And NAFDAC moves against sales of measured milk cereals in open market. The Nation wins highest honors at NMMA. And we have a Rivers Assembly 27. Rivers Assembly 27, our defection constitutional. Wow, we'll get to see about that. Lagos inaugurates agro-produce hub. And Sun set to standardize CNG buses. Dignitaries greet Buhari at 81. Wow. Deaths in water, fears anguish over boreholes. Business pullout. Inflation slowdown likely from next month. Investors target shares of big banks, and Wema Bank to raise 40 billion. Why I didn't stop Son Ogbomosho from title by Adeboye. Nigerian is president, Cambridge Varsity College. Well, that's a nice one. Quickly, what do you have to say about this? I think the one that, let's look at this Rivers Assembly 27 as in saying that defection is constitutional.
I am not a legal practitioner. And then we also know that constitutionally, it is said that no House of Assembly member should defect to another party, carrying the party of maybe of another party. So once you do that, automatically it means that you should lose that. And this is not the first time defection is happening. And this is not the first time that section of the Constitution has been quoted. And politically, they have a way of using politics and their political might to downplay legality. So we are interested to continue to watch to see how all this will play out. Unfortunately, the people that I pity for in this whole shenanigan going on between the political battle is the people of Rivers State. Now, imagine the resources that have or that is supposed to be used to improve their lives that now will be used maybe to repair the House of Assembly complex. Imagine what, as I tell you, every political meeting or gathering will be talking about what can we do to outplay, what can we do to outsmart, what can we do to make sure we continue to retain power. While the other ones will be planning what can we do to win. So what happens to good governance for the people of Rivers State? And this is what, when you look at the indices and then you take a scale of it, you find out that in terms of agriculture, in terms of education, in terms of health, they will be going down. And the gains of the previous government will just be washed away. So millions that have been invested in that area will be washed away because of the political battle that is going on. And these things are just avoidable situations in the first place.
Apart from even being avoidable situations, my take on this thing is that, are these people not elected to serve the people? So why the personal interest of godfatherism in this area?
You hear one person, when one person tells you that he bought the entire ticket for every candidate, starting from the Senate to the list, he bought it. So it's to make you understand what the play is. And when you come to House of Assembly members, when we say they are not strong enough to challenge the governors, we know even in our dear state, unfortunately, what goes on politically, how because the governor has said whatever the governor has said, and it is most time the governor that has influenced his party to give you the ticket. So you tend to be loyal to the governor. So this is to make you understand even the kind of game plan that Wike has done in Rivers State. to have gotten these numbers of persons to his own favor, even when he's not in power, is to make you understand that maybe initially he was trying to set booty traps for the governor. But unfortunately, things are happening as they are happening. And we are condemning it, really. We are condemning it to the extent that the citizens or the people of Rivers deserve good governance. They deserve to live their lives just like every average Nigerian. We are talking about what is happening in the north. If this is not curtailed, insecurity in Rivers State would go out of board. And once that happens, where are they going to target? They're still going to target the pipelines. What happens when that pipeline is targeted? Our revenue will go down more. Would the government have money to take care? So these things have triple effect, as in, and we must begin to understand that.
Ask me, I should say that federal government needs to weigh in this situation right now. It's no longer a state issue.
In what capacity do you think the federal government, when they are culpable in the same issue?
What I'm saying, we are looking at how many lawmakers have just decided
to just camp.
And they are saying that it's constitutional.
So when we say,
and we know that they are working for Wike.
So thank you very much. So when we say the federal government should come in.
It's the same thing that happened when Amechi and Wike was fighting.
So I think Nigerians must understand that godfatherism does not really work. So the earlier, especially our political elites, the earlier they begin to downplay that mindset of godfatherism, the better for them and their own sanity. That is one. Then I want to also know that the system we run is because a presidential system, and since the president cannot be everywhere doing everything, he has ministers whom he has appointed, giving some part of his power to do that work that he has assigned them to do. And Wike is a minister of FCT. So I would say what Wike is doing indirectly is what the president wants him to do. If not, the president should call him to order. So when we say the federal government should come into this, I would say that what we are talking about is the federal government that is even causing the situation.
Of course.
All right, we have like 3 papers to go. Let's take them together. First is the Guardian newspaper. FG firms trade jobs as illegal expatriate take over economy. That is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper, and that's the big story in the front page. And then we also have there, pro-Wike lawmakers re-strategize to oyster Fubara out, vow to reclaim Rivers. Kano resident won't accept injustice, Deputy Governor wants. Serap sues INEC for failing to prosecute electoral offenders in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo elections. Profligate governors are political class, pauperizing citizens. NCDC confirms outbreak of dengue fever in Sokoto. And then, okay, quickly, let's see what we have in the front page of Daily Trust newspaper.
On the Daily Trust newspaper, what we have there is Zamfara community under siege as bandits strike. Military vehicles, police outposts burnt. 3 persons killed, 16 abducted. State government to hire 4,200 security guards. And then Afedifere raises alarm over rising kidnapping in Southwest. And also we have ripples over appointment of 132 liaison officers for Kano LGAs. Customer loyalty, Zenith Bank, Borno government bagged Daily Trust award. NMA gives federal government 45-day ultimatum to review doctors' salary. What does the World Bank want from Nigeria? That's the editorial there. Experts, unions differ over federal government's plan to restructure TCN. Trust TV wins Nigeria Media Merit Award.
Okay, Samuel, what's your thought on this? We've seen it in almost all the papers we read out this morning. Serap suing INEC for failing to prosecute electoral offenders in the by-election, that's Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo elections.
This is going a long way to make us understand how our institutions in Nigeria operate, how bad it has become, where people who have been fingered to have carried out bad actions are left to go unpunished. And this, over time, has continued to embolden them. unfortunately, we are good at trading blames. We are good at making empty promises. At every election, you would hear the police. You would hear INEC telling us that they are ready. You hear the police saying that they are not going to take it lightly with unscrupulous elements. They would always use that word. You would hear them say, once you are caught, you are going to be dealt with decisively. These are the kind of languages they use. And then the question is, over time, the citizens have heard this, and then it's more like a lullaby that does not even make any sense. So it makes us want to pull away from political activities or even from electioneering process, that apart. Now the question is, even when the police have been fingered to have been compromised, seeing people who are carrying out electoral violence and the likes without doing anything, the police will tell you that they don't have the power to prosecute, that it is not their constitutional power. It's not the power given to them. That is only INEC that have that power to prosecute. And when they succeed in making arrests, they hand them over to INEC. And over the years, we can count the number of cases that INEC has successfully prosecuted to its later conclusion. We are talking about Adamawa, the wreck of Adamawa. Nobody's talking about that again. Now we are talking about Imo State, Bayelsa, and Kogi. And we saw what really happened. Unfortunately, till now, INEC is not making us believe that they are taking zero tolerance to this kind of events. So they are keeping quiet. The question is, at next year's Edo election, what do they think would be the message they are passing? What do they think? So who are they really working for to start with? Are they working for the citizens? Are they working for the political players? Who really is INEC working for? And what is even the core responsibility of INEC beyond conducting an election that an average Nigerian would even tell you that they don't have confidence in? It's unfortunate that this continues to happen. And the thing is, when you even see them having their review, I don't know what they reviewed there, but when they talk to the media, they speak with straight face. And you look at them and be like, man, these people have lost it.
All right, Sam, we'll have to go because we have other things for the show this morning. Thank you so much, Samuel Ololo, for being part of the show this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll see you at the other side. Stay with us.